Our next speaker is Mr. Charles Herman. He comes to us from the New York Power Authority, NYPA. His career has traveled origination from central New York here. I've heard tales of Texas, New Jersey, up to White Plains, where he started at NYPA as a research technology development engineer. He was responsible for the development of electric and hybrid electric vehicles. He works, during that time, he also maintained and operated 15 fuel cells for NYPA, and he's working on NYPA's solar installation projects. Mr. Herman is now a senior engineer, and he works to large PV installations. He's completed a 1 megawatt sodium sulfur battery energy storage system and a 750 kW PV array out in western New York. Mr. Herman has an MBA from NYU Stern. He also holds a BS in electrical engineering and the interdisciplinary engineering and management from Clarkson University. Him and his wife Ann reside in Stormville, New York, with their 2 children. Please welcome Mr. Herman.
How's everybody doing today? Everybody can hear me all right? Great. Well, I just came to speak today. The Power Authority's been doing solar electric for close to 20 years now. I've been with them for about 8. I started out doing electric vehicle transportation, did some research in hydrogen, and now I'm doing mostly solar these days. The Power Authority is the largest public power organization in the United States. We don't use any taxpayer funds. All of our revenues come from the sale of our electricity. Between our generation and our power purchases on behalf of our customers, we generate and supply roughly 25% of the electricity that's consumed in New York State. 80% of that is hydro, and the other is basically natural gas. The last 22% is basically natural gas. We also own about half of the high voltage transmission lines in New York State, running from Canada down to New York City, here in Marcy, out to Buffalo, to get that power throughout New York State. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is our Solar Market Acceleration Program. It's been recently approved by our trustees, and it's a $30 million program that is targeted, oddly enough, with reducing the balance of system costs for solar photovoltaics. The module prices have come down, and now the focus is switching over to the balance of systems. And in this case, we're using the Department of Energy's definition of balance of systems, which is basically everything but the panels. Inverters, installation costs, hardware costs, you have your soft costs as well, permitting, application process, installation inspections. So it's a large project. And the Solar Market Acceleration Program is one of the key parts of Governor Cuomo's recent New York Sun initiative. So you've probably heard some of that in various news releases, and you'll continue to hear that for the foreseeable future. So the Market Acceleration Program is kind of broken up into 3 different segments. Solar research, which is looking at things that are still kind of in the laboratory, getting ready to demonstrate. They're still, doing the research and finalizing everything. Demonstration projects, so that we can actually bring those technologies out of the lab and put them into a real-world environment like this building, test them, allow companies the opportunity to fine-tune them and go from kind of a lab product to a marketable commercial project. And the soft cost reduction. So how do you connect this thing to the grid? How do you make it just easier for the various utilities here? Everybody's got their own process and their own review cycle. How can you kind of make that more streamlined and consistent across? Many of the installers that are here in New York State install throughout New York State. And you hear stories, you go down to Long Island and it's one process, and you're in Buffalo and it's another process, and you're in northern New York State and it's another process. And so you've got people constantly learning just how to submit paperwork. That slows everything down. So how can we speed up all those, that time that it takes to get to the market? And also, one of the thoughts we have is there a way we can, come up with a standardized system design, from an electrical perspective, that you can have pre-approved, through all the various utilities, and the only thing you're adjusting on site is the physical installation. How do you get it to fit on that site? You want a 10 kilowatt system? Okay, this package has been pre-approved. The electrical diagrams don't change. It's just literally the physical layout on the roof and the ballasting to keep it there. So is there something that can be done along those lines? So initially where we're starting, we just got approval on this program in March. We're still meeting on a weekly basis internally to kind of develop where this is going, talking to a lot of stakeholders throughout the state. One of our initial thrusts is a collaborative with NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, their sister agency, and basically we're providing $5 million in funding to them for their program opportunity notices. They're basically going to be developing and administering some of these programs, competitive solicitations for balance of system cost reduction. So we'll be co-funding those, and that'll help greatly. They're going to actually match it with $5 million of their own funding, so it'll be a $10 million program. Probably be multiple different types of opportunities under there. We have demonstration and education facility. I've been recently up to, or from here down to the TechSmart facility in the Hudson Valley to take a look at the solar training facility they have there. And we want to provide a similar type of service, to provide training centers and education facilities, both for the general public and for installers. And let's not leave out that other little piece, which is the inspectors. A lot of these inspectors have never been exposed to solar before. You get out, especially into the small towns and villages throughout the state, they're seeing their first PV systems. They don't know how to inspect them properly. They don't know what they're looking at. They're not familiar with that portion of the code. So that, again, slows things down. They have hesitation. They don't want to approve things because they're not sure if they're safe. So that type of education will come in handy. And we're getting a lot of feedback from firefighters. Is it safe? How, if a house is on fire and there's PV panels on a roof, how do I address that? I can't simply just go cut into live electrical wires. So there's some innovative programs that are out there. Obviously, California is kind of ahead of the curve. So we're going to look at trying to provide some educational programs for firefighters as well. Another program we're looking at is carports. So how can we erect solar canopies for these hybrid electric vehicles or for electric vehicles? So you can not only provide shade, but you can also provide a station to recharge for those people that have electric vehicles that are driving back and forth to work. And the streamlined solar permitting. That's still kind of being defined how that's going to come about. But some of the thoughts now is just the best practices statewide. We also have thoughts of kind of a standardized database, but there's a lot of integration from all the multiple players that would have to be involved because they would then have to integrate it into their back office solutions. But for now, we're just looking at trying to figure out a standardized method for installers to communicate with the utilities. So that's the Solar Market Acceleration Program in a nutshell. Besides that, it was mentioned earlier, I've had experience working with fuel cells. We've been doing that for about 15 years as well. We still have 12 fuel cells in operation in our fleet, maintain those on a daily basis. We've installed about 100 PV systems statewide, at schools, at some residences through our municipal electric co-ops. I just recently got done with a sodium sulfur battery energy storage project, and that could be one method of assisting with the integration of solar and wind into the grid, is providing energy storage for, when the cloud passes over and the solar energy drops off. How do you keep from having to, pull your natural gas and your coal resources back online? Those types of facilities like to be base loaded. They don't necessarily want to be ramped up and ramped down all the time. So how do we smooth that curve a little bit? So That's all I have for today. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Do you have any other questions from the audience for everybody, right?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.